You know, George, over the past 60 years, our society has made some pretty crazy advances in science and technology.
One giant leap for mankind.
What if I told you you can trace all of them back to three things? An unholy trinity, if you like. War, porn, and fast food. That's the theory of science and technology writer Peter Nowak. For example, we all know the military created the internet, but they also created lasers back in the 50s. The same ones that now allow you to sit back and watch, oh, I don't know, Anchorman on DVD.
Wow. Never ceases to amaze me.
As for porn, well, it pioneered the use of video, which of course led to the explosion of the VCR. But Nowak also says when you buy something on eBay and use PayPal to pay for it, you can thank the porn industry for creating that too. And fast food is more than just filling empty bellies. Peter says companies are embracing technology to cut costs. Think call centers in India are annoying? Well, a certain burger company is now using internet technology to outsource their drive-thrus. Peter lays it all out in his new book, Sex, Bombs, and Burgers: How War, Porn, and Fast Food Created Technology as We Know It.
Everybody please say hello to Peter Nowak. It's one of those things that everybody deals with, right? You know, it's the idea of, wow, life is filled with so many conveniences, but they often, or they rarely go back and figure out how. The idea that sex, war, and fast food kind of gave us everything, it's pretty special. It's almost like it's the new holy trinity, isn't it?
Yeah, the unholy trinity, really.
Yeah. Or holy, depending on how you look at it, Peter. So let me just sort of set it up for people as to why you think this is the case.
Well, I think, you know, the evidence of these base instincts, these are really base instincts that, you know, we've tried for thousands of years to sort of overcome and evolve past, but we just haven't had any success in doing it. And so the evidence of the negatives of these things, it's evident everywhere you look. You turn on the TV or you open a newspaper, you see sex scandals, you see war, and you see suffering, and you see obesity crisis and all this stuff, right? And all these negatives are very obvious, and it's unfortunate that we have them. But the fact is they've spawned huge industries: military, porn, fast food / food processing. And the fact is, because the industries are so huge and there's so much money to be made and they're so competitive, competition is the #1 driver of technology and innovation. So what's happened is that these are three of the industries that have given us some of the most amazing technological innovations over the last century, even going back, you know, further than that.
Well, I mean, you always hear about how, you know, obviously war technology and investment into war on behalf of governments, you know, was why we have the internet or things like that. In terms of pornography, generally people say, aside from a couple of awesome toys, it's really about the VHS. Like the pornographic industry is the reason why VHS became so popular. Same thing for the internet, though, isn't it? I mean, basically everybody went online to gamble or look at porn for the first little while.
Yeah, well, the military is really, I mean, they've got the labs, they've got the scientists, and they pour billions and billions of dollars into R&D, and that's, you know, they create a lot of the stuff. There's actually no real labs where there's porn scientists working on, like, the latest technologies.
That we know of. That we know of, but there probably is somewhere.
There might be.
It's in Germany if it's anywhere.
What the porn industry specializes in, though, is that they're the early adopters of technology. So, you know, you or I could come up with some fantastic new gadget or website or something like that, but until somebody comes and actually pays money to give us, you know, the ability to further develop that so that the mainstream can adopt it, we're not going to get anywhere. And that's what the porn industry is good at. So the VHS, the VCR is a great example. When the VCR first came out, late 70s, early 80s, Hollywood decided, well, this is bad for us. We're going to go and sue Sony. You know, it was the Betamax case, as it became known. So, but who piled in and thought, this is a great technology? It was the porn industry. And so they were really the early suppliers of the dollars.
And that's sort of on the front end, if you'll pardon the pun. On the back end, can't you point to the porn industry and say that one of the reasons why there's such great web security now and e-commerce security is almost directly due to the porn industry?
Yeah, well, there's definitely a huge causal relationship there. The porn industry, you have to remember, is that everybody wants to get into those porn sites, and they want to do it, and they want to get in there, and they want to get it free. So they not only have to keep their content safe, they have to keep their members' information, their credit card numbers and all that safe. So they almost put more effort into security than they do into actually producing the actual the content that they sell.
And so I read in an article, somebody was talking about that, saying if you're a porn actor or actress on your resume, that might not help you out. But if you're a software or a website developer for a pornographic website, that actually does help you in a resume.
Yeah. Well, I talked to, during the research of the book, I talked to a guy who was a pretty high-level manager of a multinational bank, which shall go nameless. And
can you just cough in your hand and tell me what it rhymes with? Is it more like... Okay, yeah.
Well, he was, so at the early part of this decade, right around the turn of the millennium, this bank was trying to figure out, hey, we want to give this this investor update to our clients in the morning. We want to do it through video, but nothing at the time existed. There was no commercial option. This was before the days of YouTube, obviously. So they were talking about, how can we do this? So they actually sent an intern out. They gave him a credit card, and they said, go sign up to some porn sites, because this is what they specialize in. And so he just went out and looked at the porn sites and basically copied exactly what they're doing.
What we haven't been able to figure out is how much of this is good and or bad, in that there's always the conversation that technology is value neutral, but nothing is value neutral in this world, because at the end of the day we get involved and we taint it, or we make it a better thing. Have you been able to figure out, with all these technological advancements, where we sit in terms of values?
It's a tough question to answer. It is a moralistic thing, and it's you know, it's really hard to sit here and say, well, war is great. Look at all the positive things that come out of war. So it's really hard to make those value judgments. But definitely, technology it's value neutral. It's what we do with it that matters, right? I guess somebody someday has to sit down and do sort of a gauge as to whether what are all the negatives that have come of this and what are all the positives. I guess part of the point of the book is to point out, look at all the comforts and conveniences that we do have around us every day. I mean, the couches we're sitting on, these things probably have memory foam in them, which was developed by the military. So, I mean, things we take for granted, things we don't even really see or understand in the world around us. So I guess that is, you know, you gotta take that into account when you do that whole balance judgment.
Bring in the fast food part, the burgers part, because we can definitely see, you know, like you talked about with military developments, and even also with sex in terms of the industry behind it. In terms of fast food, is it about food production and the way they've been able to streamline the process?
Yeah, I think when we're talking about fast food, it's not just McDonald's and Burger King. We're talking about, you know, just the creation of food in a quicker process than you know, farming it and doing it that way. We're talking about the processing, the transportation, and all that stuff. I think what a lot of people forget is that food technology is really the basis of everything else we have, every other luxury we know. If we couldn't basically feed ourselves year-round, 365 days a year, we wouldn't really be worrying about, can I get that new iPhone, or can I get that you know, 3D plasma screen or whatever. Mm-hmm. So really, food technology is at the basis of every developed country's prosperity.
Do you see a time where technology and the food industry come so close together that you walk into restaurants and there won't be people working there anymore? Because food production has, look what happened to the auto industry, and many industries go down that road, newspaper industry. What about the food industry?
There's a couple, it's funny because when you talk about food, people get really emotional, and especially people who make food. One of the things I found in working on this book was, in Italy they have these vending machines that make pizzas. And so you basically put in...
that sounds healthy.
Yeah. Well, but I think you put in €5 and it basically makes your pizza for you in like 3 minutes or something like that. And I talked to some pizza chefs about this, and the chefs were, of course, upset, and they said, oh, this machine can't possibly make a pizza as well as we can. But I think they're actually really wrong, because when you're talking about food, when you're talking about a recipe, basically it's a set of instructions, it's a set of ingredients, and a robot can duplicate those steps and those ingredients better than a human can. 9 out of 10 times humans make mistakes, right? Particularly in fast food restaurants. Some would argue that the people that work there are already robots. I'm not saying that. But you know, there was a couple cases, you look on YouTube and you find incidents where people are putting, you know, picking their nose and putting it in pizza. This is Domino's.
You know they do that. It's called special sauce. It's there. we don't be like we don't know.
It's true. There was a YouTube video of a guy taking a bath in a big sink at Burger King.
Yeah, that's amazing though, right? Like, just the inner punk rock rebel in you kind of looks at that and says, well done, sir.
Exactly. So robots won't do that.
No, but there are, well, we don't know that.
We hope
Have you
not.
seen iRobot, man?
Yeah.
Shit gets weird. They kill people. But But there are larger social ramifications. The challenge with robots making pizzas is that people lose jobs.
Yep.
You know, and then that creates a whole other set of problems.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it. If you put robots into your McDonald's, what are the teenagers going to do? Yeah. Well, you know, we got to figure that out. I guess maybe the teenagers are going to have to figure out how to build the robots. Maybe that's their new low-wage job. I don't know.
The book is called Sex, Bombs, and Burgers. Peter Nowak, everybody. Good to see you. Stick around. George E. Romero coming up. All right, come on for a second. You're back here in the program. I just want to call a little bit of an audible. Peter's still here, as you noticed. As we wrapped up the interview, we're in a commercial break. You leaned over and just said two words together that when you hear those two words together, I just thought, oh, you got to stick around. I got to ask you about this. All you said were sex robots. And because if you're talking about how the porn industry has really sort of set the table for a lot of the other stuff that we know, sex robots, what? What?
Yeah, they're on the way. Some would actually say they're already here.
You don't just mean somebody who's particularly uncreative in bed.
No,
you mean...
No, these are machines. Machines created to simulate human activity. So supposedly the first one was unveiled back in January at the Adult Expo, Entertainment Expo, also known as the Porn Convention. And this was supposedly the first fully functional sex robot. A lot of mainstream media showed up to cover this, and they were kind of disappointed because it was a bit of a bust. It didn't really move much.
See, right? I don't. They did it. I was sitting there and I said, for this one moment, George, try to act your age. Right? Okay, so carry on. You were saying?
All right. So it was a bit of a bust, and it didn't really move much and didn't really say much. But it's
strikes me as a bit of a success.
Yeah, well, it's kind of baby steps towards the whole issue of sex robots, and most people expect it's only going to be a few years before there's machines that you can have sex with now. I don't know if you'd really want to, but I think people really want something that kind of looks and feels real, and you know, they've got the dolls, the real dolls. We were talking about that. Those things cost you know, under $7,000, and they're made with like steel skeletons and latex skin. And
Howard Stern talked about them a lot when they first came out.
Yeah, he was a big fan.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that's cool. So 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, so I think...
All right, so everybody, now you know. All right, 5 or 10 years will be taken care of.
This head of the European Robotics Network, he said something along the lines of, if people are willing to have pay to have sex with dolls, anything that moves is going to be a huge improvement.
Thanks for sticking around, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
Peter Nowak, everybody. All right. For some people, that is the world of goodness. Let's get right to it.